Welcome to NatChat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today we have Britni Green with us. And Britni, let me get this right, you are a Christian biologist and currently finishing your master's in the mechanical properties of eucalyptus trees.
Yeah, that's right.
A very famous tree in Australia. And let me start with the first question. First of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. And let me start with the first part of your identity here. Christian biologist, can you just define this for us?
Well, Paul, I love when people challenge me in the fact that I am a biologist or a scientist and a Christian, because in their minds they believe that the two are complete opposites, when to me they actually come together in a perfect relationship.
Okay.
What I mean by that is that I find myself studying not just biological things, but the world, and it's a discovery for me, and the discovery into the mysteries of God's creation.
Okay. Now, discovering means that you believe that things are already there, and but we do not have the whole wisdom about everything. But biology is part of the science that can discover things, isn't it?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about biology? What is biology? What biology deals with, just for the audience point of view?
Well, biology is a very broad term.
Okay.
It is, in definition, the study of living things.
Okay.
And the reason why it is so important is because it encompasses so many things that are important, not just in our lives, but in the whole aspect of the earth. So
we're talking about environment, isn't it?
Environment, it can go from viruses and sickness, human
Okay.
beings, oceans, trees. Everything is a living thing.
Okay.
It's a study of biology.
And now, from a Christian perspective, it's just the Christianity really. It's a part of how we translate who is behind everything, living thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more, instead of believing that we are creating the things, it's more of us finding out how things work, because they've always been here, like bacteria and microorganisms. You know, they aren't just appearing out of the blue. We're actually discovering that they're here by having more technology and advancing in medicine and things like that. So. Do
you find reasons for every living thing that you have discovered in biology?
Reasons
of existence?
Oh yeah, even the ones I don't like, perhaps, like spiders.
Okay.
There's always a reason for them, yeah.
That means there's nothing out of luck in the natural world, in the natural world.
If there is, it means we haven't discovered it yet.
Okay. All right, because that gives us a little bit more about the definition of Christian biologist. But let me go into your story. How did you discover yourself that this is your pathway in life?
Well, I've always loved science. I've always loved animals and plants and nature in general, even when I was very, very young. I think some of my earliest memories were walking through the wilderness, very rugged wilderness, with my grandfather, and he knew lots of medicinal biology, which is different than regular biology. But just the amount of knowledge that he shared with me, to me, was very wise, and I really wanted not to just gain that wisdom, but it was just something that I realized the beauty of the wilderness, even though it can be dangerous and rugged and hard to survive in, is much more beautiful than living in concrete buildings. You
did not grow up in Australia, isn't it, based on your accent?
No, I did not.
Okay. Where did you grow up? Where did you...
I'm from the United States.
From the United States.
Yeah,
which area?
The Midwest. Okay.
And you discovered there the environment that was very attractive to you, so you became a biologist.
Yes.
Okay. Now, specifically eucalyptus trees, is it something that attracted you to this tree, or you just interested in a sort of a natural world, and you just as part of your study this one out of luck?
Well, I always found them quite fascinating and interesting and quite beautiful as well.
Okay.
But it wasn't my intention to actually study them. It was brought to me as a research group that needed a biologist's opinion, and they needed help. So I was up for the task, and I said, yeah, I'm interested in this, and I'll contribute.
And Australia is a very, very good environment to study eucalyptus trees. They are everywhere.
Yes, there's over 700 species.
Wow.
Yeah.
700 different species.
Just in Australia.
Just in Australia about eucalyptus trees.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That is very extraordinary. The only thing I know is about Blue Mountains, and I know about some other eucalyptus trees that they're very tall and can be very short as well. The only thing I knew that eucalyptus trees are only tall trees, 30, 40 meters high. Do they grow to any environment or just?
They're very adaptable, yeah. So they can grow in a wide range of environments. They're native to Australia, most of the species. However, they're actually being implemented into many other countries for industrial reasons and for selling things like that. So they're actually becoming a bigger interest because of the types of trees that they are. And in Australia, it's all those species that people haven't realized their potential yet. So that's why I actually got into the position I'm in now.
We still have more potential than we already know.
Yeah.
Wow, biology, somebody told me that it never stops discovering things.
No.
And the books in biology become obsolete very, very quickly because new ones come on board, isn't it?
That's right.
Britni, we're going to continue specifically about eucalyptus tree and things that you have discovered and you like about them shortly after the short break. Please stay with us. We're going to continue specifically about eucalyptus trees in Australia. Welcome back as we continue the discussion about eucalyptus trees with Christian biologist Britni Green. Britni, what really attracted you most about that tree?
Well, I really like the overall look of the most common species of eucalyptus trees is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is it has one stem, so one trunk, and it branches out, and the branches are fairly far apart from each other. And then the leaves actually grow down and they flow in the wind. So I love the movement that the tree makes. Not just the, of course everybody knows the smell, but the movement to me is very soothing, and it's almost like a willow tree, how the branches just kind of flow in the wind.
Okay. That's the viewing of the tree, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as you mentioned before, they use the perfumes and aromas with eucalyptus.
Yeah, that's right.
That means it's used for that as well. Apart the characteristics of the tree, is anything else apart from the viewing of it that it is a strong characteristic of eucalyptus tree?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, they're actually being researched more and more, each species of eucalypt, and there are so many species, so it's going to take a while for all of them to be truly discovered. But they're being used in studies for plantation growth all over the world, mainly in Brazil and some in Europe and some in North America. But the plantation growth is actually interesting because they're not just looking for a tree that can be harvested. They're looking for a tree that can be harvested in a certain amount of time, that is resistant to drought and pests and other things that might harm it, that can be used for harvesting not just for paper but oil and production of medicine and things like that. And these eucalyptus trees are actually fitting into all of those categories. So they grow and mature within 10 years, which means they can be harvested in a decade. Which is one of the biggest factors, because most trees take more than 10 years to mature. But all the benefits that a eucalypt is having is showing us that they are very valuable as trees as well.
Yes, because if you have plantations around the world, the hardwood from eucalyptus trees must be very good quality.
Yes,
isn't it?
And very beautiful.
And obviously there is a quick to reproduce it.
And it protects our forests that are old growth by having these young eucalypt plantations that take the spot for harvesting old growth. So
okay. On the what is it? I have actually definitely, if I ask a koala, will be another good reason about eucalyptus trees, because they're getting fed by those trees and they love them in Australia. But there is a specific characteristics that in eucalyptus tree in relation to the fires that we do have in Australia as well. Can you elaborate on that?
So in just doing my background research and learning more about these trees, I've actually found that my favorite thing about these trees is the fire. So what happens with eucalypts is that bushfires are actually healthy for the tree's growth.
Oh.
And this was actually discovered.
How does this work?
Well, it is yeah, it's quite contrary to belief, but it was discovered by the Aboriginals, and they actually used to practice controlled bushfire with these trees because they knew that it was healthy for them. And the reason it's healthy is because what happens is the fire can actually burn away everything that's bad with the tree. So any rot, any pests, any just really bad limbs or anything like that that's affecting the tree's growth. But the inside of the tree is actually protected from that fire, the seeds and the internal growth of the trunk. So what happens is after the fire is gone, it looks blackened and dead, but when actuality it's alive inside.
But for the tree itself to have that protection of its seeds must be unique for the eucalyptus, isn't it? Or is it in other trees as well?
For fire, yeah, it's very unique. So eucalypts have actually developed this adaptation over thousands and thousands and thousands of years, where their seeds are protected from this harsh environment.
Wow, that is amazing, and that's why we can see in after the huge fires, you can see the eucalyptus trees sort of reborn, and they come up very, very quickly.
Yeah,
isn't it? Okay, and it is used for oil, as we said, and medicine, as you mentioned before, and it is very durable to termites.
Yeah. And other pests, but a lot of different pests that attack normal trees, wood in general. Eucalypts tend to have their own sort of protection against them. Yeah.
How we use them apart from having plantations in Australia? Is there any other? Do we use in all these fields in Australia the eucalyptus trees?
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. They decorate the streets. They are used they're actually protected by some tribes. It just depends on the specific tree and the specific species. But most eucalypts as native trees in Australia are protected because they are native. Yeah.
They are protected, but as well as they're used for all these...
Yeah, very much like ornamental, decorative, for the urban life in the like cities.
Yes. And
they just grow naturally out in the country, and they're in the forests, but yeah, they're everywhere. So they're used in all sorts of ways.
It's quite good because Australia is sort of a vast country with a completely different climate from the north to the south. But eucalyptus tree looks like it's quite resilient to different types of environment, isn't it?
Yeah, they are found everywhere in Australia. So it's not just one region. They're found in the desert, and they're found in the rainforests.
Wow.
So, like I said, 700 species is a lot. Each species is found in different areas, but a lot of the main eucalypts are found almost everywhere. So you can find them in a lot of different climates, which is why they're also a good tree for the plantation growth.
We're going to come back to be a little bit more critical view in relation to how we treat trees and the environment And as biologists, I think your opinion will count more. And thank you for being with us. We'll be back with you shortly. Welcome back in our third segment today, and we're talking about the environment. We did discuss in relation things to biology and eucalyptus trees. Mm-hmm. But how good are we, Britni, with the environment today?
Well, it's definitely a tricky subject.
It is.
I'd like to first start in a historical context.
Yes.
So, because I'm from the U.S., this is what I know. But in the U.S., we had a President Teddy Roosevelt. He actually created a Protection Act for natural parks.
Yes.
This created all the parks that are there today and that are still protected.
Yes.
Now, here in Australia, I don't know if you're aware, but just recently the government has actually declassified the Tasmanian forest, which means that they're no longer a part of that protective act that was adapted worldwide.
Okay.
Their reasoning was because they wanted it to be more available for people so that they could reach it and actually go into the wilderness. But what that also means is it gives them the liberties to destroy certain parts of the forest in order to create resorts and hotels to make it more available for these people. So that's why it's tricky, because we want people to fall in love with nature, which means they need to go to it. But at the same time, we need to protect these forests because sometimes the wild is more beautiful than just something that we preserve.
And not protected means the environment is exposed to business oriented people to try to take advantage of the environment.
Exactly, yeah. Lots of loopholes.
Lots of loopholes. And then in what extent, and we have done this recently in Tasmania, haven't we?
It just happened like last month, that the government has switched the classification. It's being fought by environmental groups, but it's just recent.
Then in this case, we should expect something by next year, somebody to show interest how to take advantage of the natural world. They're talking about the whole of Tasmania or part of it?
Most of it.
Most of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting to know that. But what is the value for us to protect the environment? From your perspective, what would be the benefit for us as humans, as opposed to do things as I please with the environment?
Well, in my opinion, my most magical memories have been either in the wilderness or in nature, or in a position where nature and human life combine.
Okay.
If you look at cities and things, it's all man-made, and those are all temporary environments.
Yes.
They don't last.
Yes.
And if you read stories and you watch movies and TV shows, and you see those storylines where people want to get lost, they don't want to go and get lost in a city. They want to find themselves in the wilderness. And that's really, I think, if you look at all the stories, that there aren't any where people go to the city to find themselves, honestly.
That means I like that analogy. That means I can feel more connected with the mountain or the natural world rather than the cement city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's something inside of us that craves that openness and that vastness. It shows us how small we really are.
And we feel more part of it rather than the short desires of living in a big, busy city. That's very interesting. Do we do things well with the environment at all? Do you have any good stories?
Yeah, look, there's tons of environmental groups, protection agencies, animal rights people, activists. There's definitely good things happening around the world. There's so many good stories that you could read about. But these good stories come from bad things happening. So you have these people who stand up for trees and for animals who can't speak for themselves because they're not protected, or they're being abused in some way. So I think what it comes down to is just you have to educate yourself on what is happening in the world, because we are, as a society, we can actually be consumed with just ourselves, and we don't actually realize what's going on around the whole world.
Do you see any influence from your Christian ethics to affect the environment, or to fight for the environment? Do you see your Christian ethics affect your just to protect the environment, put it this way?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole first part of the book of Genesis is about creation, but it's throughout the entire Bible. But I think my favorite example is a movie starring Sean Connery. Have you seen The Medicine Man?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
So you're familiar with the plot line and the story. And I'll just briefly say what it is, but it's basically about a scientist who finds the cure for cancer in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. But he doesn't know what caused the cure. He lost it. He didn't realize what it was. So as he's searching for this cure again, he's also fighting people who are destroying the rainforest and the village that he's living in. And it comes down to a climax. Yeah, exactly, for selling lumber. The climax is basically an explosion happens that catches the whole forest on fire right as he discovers the cure for cancer. So everything gets destroyed.
Even the possibility of
the cure.
Having the cure itself.
And that pretty much is what I believe as a Christian biologist, is that everything here on the earth is created to provide for us food or medicine, cures, everything. We just haven't discovered it.
Christian ethics helps us to filter what is right, what is wrong with the environment, and just to be wise to do what is the right thing for the environment.
Exactly. It's having that wisdom to realize, it's out there. We just haven't discovered it. Or maybe we've destroyed it already.
Britni, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for discussing about your passion about the trees and the eucalyptus tree, and the passion as a Christian biologist. And we will be back with another program next week at the same time.